Hello, and welcome to this Sandbox tutorial on how to create videos. My name is Michael Myers, and I'll be walking you through this video's content. In this video, we'll be focusing on how to use storytelling to structure an effective video, how to design for an effective video, and some tools to consider for video creation. But before we begin with that content, let's have a quick review on what the Sandbox is and some of our amazing services that we have to offer. The Seneca Sandbox is your one-stop shop for creating digital media and exploring digital literacy skills. To locate our website, all you need to do is do a simple Google search for Seneca Sandbox, and we're typically the first result on a Google's page. You can also find us on the Seneca Library's homepage. If you scroll down here, you'll be able to see Seneca Sandbox. If you click on that, you will be redirected to our website. Our website is how you can access all of our amazing services and spaces. The Seneca Sandbox does offer bookable studio spaces at Newnham Campus and Seneca York. To access our Book a Studio service, click on our first button right down here. Not only do we offer bookable studio spaces, we also offer bookable 3D printers, which can be accessed right beside the Book a Studio service. For booking a 3D printer, we do request that you complete a very quick online training module, which can be accessed right here. And this will just certify you before you can actually use a 3D printer. Once you complete it, you'll have access to book our 3D printers. Additionally, we do also offer some online learning resources. So if you're looking to explore some digital media on your own time, such as creating effective presentations or infographics or websites, or if you're looking to learn more about slicing for 3D design, all that information can be found here under our online learning resources. I encourage you to explore those on your own time. And lastly, we do also offer a digital media appointment service. This service is available for Seneca students to utilize to connect with one of the Sandbox staff members for some one-on-one training regarding digital media or digital literacy. These appointments can cover presentations, podcasting, e-portfolios, generative AI, the list goes on. These appointments are designed to help you get started for projects or help troubleshoot or maybe suggest some alternative routes for your assignments. So please be sure to book an appointment should you want to explore digital media or digital literacy with a Sandbox staff member in more detail. You can click right here to request a digital media appointment. The Seneca Sandbox is here for you to help you as you create digital media and explore the invaluable skills of knowing digital literacy. So I encourage you to check out our services, come to our spaces, and maybe book an appointment. Thank you. When it comes to creating effective digital media, whether it's a presentation, infographic, website, or video, it's very important to think of it as a story. Humans are storytellers. We always have been, always will be. Storytelling is the best way that we can communicate with each other, and is the best way that we remember information. So in order for you to create an impactful and memorable video, think of it as a story. Think of it as a narrative path that you're going to guide people along. Always have that in your mind, front and center, when you are creating a video. It helps structure your content, the progression of your content, and also informs the design decisions that you will make. And when we think of it as a story, there's a couple of ways that we can tackle our story in video format. The most common 3 ways to tackle a video is to film yourselves in live at time. So if you wanted to film yourselves on camera with a green screen, a teleprompter, professional lighting, the Seneca Sandbox studios are perfectly set up for this type of recording. So I encourage you to consider coming down to one of our studios if you want to film yourself and then manipulate that in one of the tools that I'll be showcasing in this video. Alternatively, you can use some of the tools that I'll be demoing today, and you can record a voiceover. When you record a voiceover or do a narration, your voice will be guiding people through your content while images, other videos, and different types of media appear on screen. A very popular format as well for video storytelling. And lastly, there is kind of a hybrid model by using an animated avatar. Adobe Express offers a great option for you to narrate an animated avatar that appears throughout your video and is acting as the narrator for your video content. So first and foremost, we must think of our video as a story, and that helps us inform some decisions that we make, including how we want to tackle our video, using one of these 3 common opportunities. But before we start actually filming our video, there's some things we need to keep in mind. So first, like I already mentioned, think of it as a story, and then we can start to organize our content around a narrative path and structure that makes sense with the concept that we have in mind. Again, it's very important to remember storytelling, and there's a lot of different ways you can tackle a story. There's the dramatic arc, the hero's journey, a zig and zag. There are many different types of stories that you can look into. I encourage you to do some exploration on storytelling and maybe exploring one of those structures that can fit for your content. But storytelling is not the only thing that informs our decisions as we create digital media, specifically videos. Audience considerations is a very important thing to consider before you start actually crafting your video. What type of audience is going to be watching this video? Are they newcomers to this concept that you're presenting? Are they experts? Are they peers? Are they your instructors? Are they your friends, your family? All of these important considerations help us craft our message throughout our video that is best suited for our audience. So we need to think about our content in the confines of a story with a narrative path, but also who's the audience? Who's going to be watching this? And make sure it's appropriate for that audience. Thirdly, once we thought about our story, our content, our audience, we can start to organize it in an outline. This is where we can start translating some of the story elements to the content that we have prepared. So maybe if you're using the dramatic arc, for example, you've identified you want to have an introduction, rising action, climax, and conclusion. You can start mapping those broader concepts to some specific content that you would like to see throughout your video. So it's very important to take the time to outline your narrative flow with audience in mind. Fourth, we want to start gathering material. For a lot of our assignments, gathering material often means research. And for a video, we still probably have to do some research, but we also want to start gathering materials that we want to see in our video. Maybe we want to do a quick little clip of ourselves, maybe we have to come to the sandbox to film that. Or maybe I'm looking for some stock video that I would like to use. Or maybe some stock images or icons. Or maybe even some audio. All of these very important multimedia aspects make a good video. So it's important before you start to start organizing your research, your content, your ideas, but also all the media that you would like to use in your video. And that might be just discovering or even creating. So think about your concepts in a holistic manner before we even touch a video editing tool or video recording tool. Lastly here, we want to start scripting and sketching out our story and video so that when we get to recording or crafting in a tool, we are well prepared. And let's take a more deeper look on scripting and storyboarding. A script is a very important element of creating a video. When we are doing a live action filming, narration or voiceover, or even an animated character, a script goes a long way. A script helps us be prepared. A script helps us understand our narrative flow more effectively. When we give presentations, we often lean into the moment and be a little bit more authentic and maybe not want to read or be so robotic. When it comes to a video, we of course do not want to be robotic and too formal, but we do want to be a little bit more prepared for exactly what we want to say in a video versus a presentation. In a presentation, we can have pauses, and kind of real-life authentic moments to invite people into our presentation. But for a video, we want to have very clean audio. We want to make sure it's flowing very well, so we want to make sure we have a script and we have prepared it and have practiced it before we start filming. On screen, you're seeing a very basic template that you can use for scripting. It's a chart format that has 3 different areas. You have your scene 1, the narration that you would like to have, and then what you would like to see on screen. So this is a very helpful way of structuring our narrative and making sure there's logical progression throughout our video. So scene 1, I might introduce some concepts with some very brief narration, and then I want to have some things appear on screen. Now, the template that I am showcasing right now is very well set up for animated voiceovers or just general voiceovers and narration. And when it comes to doing live filming, this still works, but you might have to provide more detail on what you mean by on screen. When we are just crafting it through a tool that allows us to do voiceovers or animated voiceovers, we can play around with images, icons, stock videos. But when we are scripting for a live recording, we have to be a little bit more about, okay, move stage left, move stage right, I want to do a jumping jack, I want to shout for joy. We have to have a little bit more stage directions. But structuring a video in this template will make sure that you are set up for success. I cannot over suggest using a script template like the one provided. You can access this from the Seneca Sandbox website, but I'll also provide the link in the description as well. So if scripting is very focused on writing, there's some things that we need to think about for writing. It's very important for a script to number your scenes. It helps us with our logical progression and narrative flow and organization of content. But before you even start recording, make sure you practice your script. Read it out loud. Hear how it sounds. If there's a word that you're tripping over, cut it out, remove it, maybe make it more simple. We want to make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success. So read it out loud, hear it out loud, practice it. But also estimate the length of your video. A general rule is that 1 page of text double spaced with 12-point font is about 1 minute of video content. Now, of course, that can change whether you're a fast speaker or a slow speaker, but generally speaking, if you're scripting, 1 page equals about a minute. And make sure you're using consistent visual cues for your scripting. Make sure that you have some form of distinction so that you understand that if I'm saying move stage left or move stage right, or take a pause or take a breath, those are not part of the actual script that I'm reading. They're actually visual cues for me to understand when I need to pause, take a breath, move. Make sure that you keep them consistent and separate from the script that you're actually going to be reading. I usually use italics within parentheses to identify that this is a visual cue rather than something that I should be reading. And lastly, if you are having closed captioning on your video, make sure you just copy and paste it directly from your script so that it's word for word. It can be quite distracting if the closed captioning of a video is different from the audio that somebody is hearing. So to make sure that it's exactly the same, copying and pasting is a great option. I have some extra resources and templates here that will be linked as well for you to access. Now, I talked about scripting, but I also want to talk about storyboarding. So this is kind of a more visual way of planning out our video even before we begin with actually creating. Where scripting is so textual based, storyboarding is a little bit more visual based. So this is very important if you're going to be doing live filming in the Sandbox studio. You can maybe sketch out where you want to move and what kind of is happening on screen here. You can also do this for narration and animated voiceovers as well, but it's just kind of sketching out the scenes and understanding the logical progression and trying to visualize your concept on paper so that when you actually create something, you have a plan, you have a narrative to follow. So as you can see here, we have scene 1 where there's a door, the lock is jiggling, it slams open, somebody appears, and it might be a little bit of a scary movie or something that's tense. So of course you can draw out your storyboard as in pencil or whatever you're using, but there's also a lot of online tools that allow you to storyboard in a digital concept so that you don't have to be drawing. So maybe you're not the best drawer, that could be an option to pursue. So taking the time to not only script out what you want to say, but also visualize your whole narrative, make sure that you are set up for success for when you actually start recording yourself and bringing that into a video editing tool. So make sure you take the time to plan it out. Think of it as a story, think about your content, think about the audience, take the time to find your materials, write out a script, and visually plan it. You'll be set up for success to create an effective and memorable video. Now that we've learned all about storytelling and how to apply it in videos using scripting and storyboarding, let's look closer at design and using media effectively. One of the important places to start when we're thinking about designing a video is to think about composition and framing of each of our scenes. Now, there are a couple strategies that you can use to make sure that you are creating an effective video. The first one is the rule of thirds. In this scenario, we are talking about dividing a scene up into a 3x3 grid. By doing this, we are creating balance in our scene, and if we place elements along the lines or at the intersection of the grids, we are naturally guiding the viewer's eyes through the content. Another good strategy to think about is using leading lines. Lines and arrows or natural lines in the environment, such as fences or roads, allow for a viewer's eyes to be directed towards content and push them through the narrative. But they can also add depth to a scene as well. So they're a very effective way of help guiding people through our content. When it comes to balancing out a scene, there's a couple strategies you could do. The first and most obvious one is symmetrical, and this offers a nice balance, and it can really help create maybe a mirrored contrast as well, and it can be used to maybe make a sense of calm or formality in your scenes. Where asymmetry is a little bit different. Asymmetry can be used on purpose to create an uneven balance that might make it feel like there's some tension or that there's some conflict or some dramatic aspects that are happening. So asymmetry has its time and place as well. But we also want to be thinking about composition and framing for when we are filming as well. And we want to make sure that there's headroom, nose room, and just general balance. So what I mean by a headroom is the space between the top of the subject's head and the top of the frame. So make sure there's enough space there. What I mean by nose room or lead room is the space in front of a subject's face when they're looking or moving sideways. So make sure there's enough space there as well. And also think about balance when you're composing a scene or framing a scene. The visual weight of elements in a frame can really add different dimensions. When we are thinking about it in a symmetrical or evenly distributed elements, we offer some balance. Or we can also go into that asymmetry and maybe lean on one side to create a sense of unevenness or tiltedness. It can be an effective way to maybe create some conflict or maybe create some balance in our scenes. So think about all of those when you're structuring and composing your scenes. There's also some psychological impact of using different camera angles. Eye level is used more for dialogue scenes, and it makes the viewer feel equal to the subject. Where a high angle that looks down on the subject makes the subject appear small or maybe a little bit weak or vulnerable, it looks a little bit reduced. A low angle, so when the camera looks up at the subject, can have the opposite effect. It can offer a sense of power, of dominance, or strength. It can really change how we are viewing the subject. There's also over the shoulder, or OTS, which is used for conversations to show perspective. It can create a sense of intimacy and connection between characters. There's also the bird's eye or top down, which the camera is directly above the subject, which is really adds an abstract feeling to the scene, or maybe as if we're omnipresent through this video. So there's many ways you can tackle camera angles, but make sure you always have enough space and balance, and think about how you're framing your scene so that you can create a narrative path. And of course, you can use a mix and match of these strategies, but think of your narrative path. All of these design elements need to be reinforcing your narrative path. Something that's absolutely critical in all types of digital media, including a video, is making sure that there's enough white space. When it comes to creating digital media, we always want to avoid cognitive overload. And what I mean by that is when there's too much going on in a slide, in a scene, on a website, in an infographic, our eyes don't know where to land and we don't know how to process this information. So our eyes naturally kind of disconnect from the information. So we want to make sure that we have that narrative path and we have a structure where we're composing and framing things that work around our narrative path. And an important part of that is making sure things have enough space around it so we're not doing too much to overwhelm our viewers. So think about that when you're creating a video. It adds clarity, ease of reading, and visual appeal. Color is one of the most important things when it comes to design. Color really helps us kind of create a sense of feeling. There's a lot of preconceived notions that we have built in as humans when it comes to color. For a lot of us, green means go, red means stop, where blue is considered to be a more calming color and red is considered a more aggressive color. So all of these can be used to your advantage. Maybe if you want to have a shocking scene, an impactful scene, maybe you want to have a big flash of red, or maybe if you want to add a sense of calming to your tone, maybe there's some nice natural blues that are progressing. So think about colors and how it helps set the tone of your video. And also make sure that if you're creating a video that has some colors naturally associated with it, that you lean in on it. For example, if I was creating a video about the effects of climate change on our nation's forests, I probably want to use a lot of earth tones. If I start using lots of blues when I'm talking about a forest, there might be a cognitive disassociation with the content and the design that I've chosen, which might actually be taking away from my narrative. So I want to make sure that my color choices are affecting the narrative in a positive way, that they're connected and maybe even enhancing the narrative. So keep that in mind when you're utilizing color. And think about maybe creating a color palette for your project. And a color palette is usually 2 to 5 colors that are complementary, but opposing colors do have some good opportunities for use as well. Let's say, for an example, I wanted to create a contrast between 2 opposing views. A nice, easy way to design around that is to use 2 opposing colors. So blue and orange are on opposite sides of the color spectrum. So if half of my scene was in blue and half of my scene was in orange, when somebody sees that, they cognitively immediately understand that these are opposing viewpoints. So opposing colors do have their time and place when used effectively as well. And when I say keep AODA in mind, I'm talking about accessibility. We want to make sure that every time we are creating content, we are thinking about accessibility. So for a color perspective, we want to make sure our color contrast is high enough. So on screen, you can definitely see a white background in dark text or a dark background in white text. This offers some great color contrast so that we can immediately see and read what is on screen. Now, color contrast in this perspective, where there's a light background and dark text and vice versa, is very obvious. But sometimes color contrast is not obvious. Gray backgrounds, for example, are very difficult to work with sometimes from an accessibility perspective. So sometimes it's very obvious, sometimes it's not. So I do recommend that you use an accessibility checker to make sure all the content that you've created has met basic accessibility standards. One of the tools that I always like to recommend is the wave evaluation tool. So make sure your color contrast is high enough. Another accessibility perspective from creating a video is make sure you take the time to add in closed captioning. There's a couple tools that have a great option to add this in, but it's a really important final step to make sure that your video feels professional, it meets accessibility standards, it's available to the broadest audience, and also closed captioning these days is kind of an expectation. If you're ever on social media, you see even short videos often have closed captioning. So make sure you add that in as an last step. When it comes to using visuals, we want to make sure that we lean on visual aids. Video is great for this. We can have stock video, stock images, icons. We can really lean in on visuals or data visualization as well. Really make sure you lean on that to emphasize your narrative. But a couple things to keep in mind. Make sure that there's a consistent feel and design across all of the visual aids that you're choosing so that there's a professionalism to your video. If you're using black and white icons, for example, stick to black and white, don't switch to color halfway through. Or if you're using an isometric icon, don't switch to 3D halfway through as well. Try to find a design or a style and stick within it for visual aids. If you're using images can be very helpful, but always ask yourself, is this image actually directly related to my narrative? Is it as universal as I think it is? It's often very helpful to get someone to take a second look at your choices to see if, does this image mean the same thing to you as it does to me? An image can be worth 1,000 words, but it could be a different 1,000 words for you than to me. So always get a second pair of eyes on those images to make sure that they are really directly related and helping your narrative, not taking away from your narrative. Something that's also very important to think about is that sizing can represent importance. This is another one of those cognitive things that we do as humans. If there's something big, our eyes will go there immediately, and we almost denote that importance to that. We think that's the most important thing. I need to focus in on that. So we want to use that to our advantage so that we can draw people in, and then maybe use some leading lines to direct them elsewhere. So something big and in the center is often where our eyes go, and we often think that's the most important thing, and we can use that in a design aspect. Also, when it comes to a video, think about layering elements. When you're creating a video where we have things that appear, think about timing and when it appears and how, if you wanted to overlay on top of each other. But if you're filming in the Seneca Sandbox spaces, think about what you want in your foreground, your background, where you want your subject to be, what kind of background do you want. You can use a green screen, you can use a backdrop, so many options to think about. So think about the depth of your scenes when you're filming, but also the placement and layering of elements when you're creating it in a tool like Adobe Express. But always make sure that you're guiding the viewer's eyes through the content, using those leading lines, using this placement, using the color, really make sure that all of these design elements are helping guide the user through your video and help them understand your narrative path. Text is very important as well. We want to make sure that we're using easy to read fonts. And what I mean by this is we want to use fonts that are a little bit more accessible. So a more accessible font is a sans serif font. So on screen here you can see two examples. We have Calibri, which is a sans serif font because it has nice clean lines, where Times New Roman actually has a little bit of serifs, where it has little extra bits. We want to use clean lines when we're using text. It makes it easier to read for most people, but it also is considered more accessible for anyone who's using assistive technology. So make sure you're using those nice clean lines for the font choices that you're making. But avoid overloading your scenes with too much text. Again, this would be contributing to cognitive overload, so we want to aim for fewer lines per section. And if you really want to draw someone in, think about using animated text. Anything that has movement, our eyes will go to immediately. So if you want to have like a title or a main point appear dramatically, people will remember that, their eyes will go to it. So think about how you can use animation when it comes to text. But also think about placement and timing when you are creating a video. So if I'm doing a voiceover video and at 30 seconds into the video I start talking about 3D printers, maybe at that 30-second mark that's when I want the word 3D printers to appear. So make sure that you align the text that you are utilizing in your scenes with the script that you've created, and think about what timing and when you want things to appear and how long you want them to stay on screen and how they disappear. So think about all those kind of small elements when you're using text, but also other elements as well. Motion and animations. This is very important. Like I already mentioned, when something is moving, our eyes tend to focus in on that. That's where we kind of go. Our eyes look for movement, essentially. So we can really use motion and animations to our advantage. So some of the main purposes of using a motion in videos, it helps draw attention, it can convey emotion, and even adds energy. So think about how you might want to utilize that in your video to maybe reinforce your narrative, and think about how it might help set tone. For example, a fast motion might mean urgency or excitement, where a slow motion might mean drama or reflection. So think about that when you're utilizing motion in your videos. There's so many different types of motions. There's camera motion, subject motion, graphic motion. So graphic motion is what I was talking about just a minute ago, about when text and elements appear on screen. Subject motion refers to how you want your subject to be moving. So if you're filming, do you want your person to move stage left, stage right? Or your camera motion, which is how you want to film. And we kind of talked about different angles earlier, so maybe you want to zoom in for effect. So that can be a little bit of a motion, and that can really help draw attention or maybe make it feel more dramatic. Transitions are also very important. Transitions help signal a change. It helps maintain flow and creates rhythm within your video. So make sure that in between scenes you have some sort of transition so that it can help users understand that, oh, we're moving on, this is a different scene, we're progressing. There's some of that rhythm to the video. There's so many different types of transitions. You can just have a cut, which is very dramatic. It like just cuts to a different scene. You can also have a dissolve and crossfade, which are typically my favorite. It just helps add a progression of time. There's fade to black, fade to white, which can be really a dramatic shift or change. Maybe like, at the end of a scene, act one of a play, the curtains come and that's cut, so that adds some sort of dramaticism to your video. There's also just wipe and match cut. There's lots of different ways that you can explore transitions, but make sure you have some sort of transition when you're creating effective videos. And of course, videos are nothing without audio. So you're probably going to be doing a voiceover or filming someone who's speaking. So there's already some dialogue and some audio elements into your video. But there's also usually background tracking or sound effects. And these really help set tone. So you really want to match the background tracking that you're choosing for your videos to the tone and pacing of each scene. So for example, a fast tempo can really make the user feel like, oh, there's energy, there's action, we're building to something. Where a slow tempo can reflect a little bit more like reflection or sadness or being dramatic. There's a lot of ways that audio helps set tones for our cognitive processing of videos. I would avoid background tracks that have lyrics in general, but specifically if you have dialogue or narration, you really don't want to be using a background track with lyrics. It can really take away from your narrative and can be quite distracting, and this can contribute to cognitive overload where there's just too much going on. I don't know which audio I should be paying attention to. So I would really caution against that. And sound effects are really a great opportunity to build in more impact and effect. They can really change up a video's pacing or really catch a user off guard, and it can really add some really exciting elements to your video as well. So I talked about audio and music, and you can also use stock images and videos and icons throughout your video. So let's explore some options that you have. So the Seneca Sandbox does have a guide. It's called Finding Free Images, Audio and Video Guide that I highly recommend that you utilize for this type of project. You can access it right here, and you can explore all of these great repositories that we have for you. You can explore images, audio, and video, and explore some areas that you can find some free content to use. I highly recommend that you check out all of the great resources listed on this guide for collecting all the materials that you need to create effective videos. Now that we've learned all about storytelling in videos, as well as how to design an effective video by using multimedia elements, let's look at some tools that you can consider for use to create your video. Now, I'm going to be showcasing some of these tools in a high level, just talk about some of their strengths and weaknesses. Should you want a more detailed tutorial or walkthrough on any of these tools, I recommend that you book a digital media appointment with the Seneca Sandbox so that we can answer all the questions that you may have. And you can also just pop on by to the Seneca Sandbox studio should you have some questions as well. And if you are tackling a video by doing live filming, I recommend that you book a Sandbox studio space so that you have all of the equipment that you need to do a really good filming session to make a really standout video. But let's look at some tools that you can consider for use. The one that I want to start off with is Adobe Express. Adobe Express, or formerly Adobe Sparks, is a great tool. It's very versatile. It offers lots of tools as well as digital media options, but the video options in Adobe Express are quite expansive. You can use the animated character feature to have an animated avatar that speaks your voiceover. So that's a really easy way to add in one of those narration elements that we've been talking about through today's video. They also offer a quick tool for closed captioning videos, and you have a lot of audio, video, and images options through their stock media. So I really much encourage you to explore Adobe Express. It's a fantastic, easy to pick up tool that you can use to create a standout video. Again, should you have interest in exploring this tool in more detail, I encourage you to book a digital media appointment. My colleague Julio has put together some great tutorials on how to use Adobe Express to create a video, and I have them linked here, but I'll also have them linked in the description as well. This is part 1 of his fantastic tutorial. And then I also have part 2 here, so I encourage you to look at those resources as well. Of course, we can talk about PowerPoint as well. PowerPoint is a very versatile tool that we're all probably fairly familiar with, and you might think of it as only a presentation tool. But you can actually create a slide deck that can be translated into a video pretty effectively using PowerPoint. It has a lot of new features. It has some smart art, some designer elements, some coaching elements, and you can really translate a presentation into a pretty effective video by using transitions, animations, timing effects, and you can even record a voiceover on different slides or for the whole video itself. So lots of great options exist in PowerPoint. So if you're very familiar with PowerPoint and you want to stick with PowerPoint, it is also a great tool to consider for creating a video. Now we do again encourage you to book a digital media appointment, but we also have some PowerPoint training as well that you might want to check out. Next up, we have Canva. Canva is a very popular tool among students. It's usually students' first introduction to graphic design tools. It offers a lot of capabilities similar to Adobe Express. You can create a lot of different types of digital media, including videos. Now, Canva is a really great tool to consider, but one of the limitations that I like to mention with Canva is that if you don't pay for it, it can be quite limited. So maybe you want to use some of the resources that I showed in the middle section of this video to kind of circumvent some of the paywalls that you hit while using Canva. But it is a great tool, user-friendly, and you can really create some effective videos in it as well. Again, as always, you can book a digital media appointment to learn more about Canva, and we also have some Canva training as well. Lastly, I want to talk about Clipchamp, which is a Microsoft video editing tool. You can really use it to record, you can use it to record audio, clip, cut, edit, and it's a really great one-stop shop if you are very comfortable with Microsoft products. It offers a lot of great video editing tools and really allows you to kind of explore all the options. And what's great about Clipchamp is that you do have access to it as part of the Microsoft 360 suite that you have access to as Seneca students. And it also hosts your video on Microsoft Stream, which is a video platform for viewing. So it really allows you to work with this Microsoft environment and really streamlines the editing process for creating a video, but of course you can also record as well. Again, this was just an overview of some of the tools that you have available to you to create videos. Should you want any more detailed information, I encourage you to check out our resources or connect with us so that we can support you in more detail. Thank you so much for watching this video about how to create effective videos with the Seneca Sandbox. My name has been Michael Myers, and it's been a pleasure to walk you through this content. I encourage you to explore some of our other tutorials as well and check out some of our amazing resources. Thank you so much.